Hello, everyone. It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Chair Boschert.
Here.
Chair Boschert is present. Vice Chair McConnell.
Here.
Vice Chair McConnell is present. Commissioner Carpenter.
Oh, excused.
Commissioner Carpenter is excused. Commissioner Calling. Here. Commissioner Calling is present. Commissioner Dunn.
Here.
Commissioner Dunn is present. Commissioner Tomachek.
Here.
Commissioner Tomachek is present. Commissioner Mayo.
Here.
Commissioner Mayo is present. Commissioner Zhang.
Present.
Commissioner Zhang is present. Commissioner Torres.
Excused.
Commissioner Torres is excused. Roll call complete.
Thank you. We have a quorum, and the first alternate, Commissioner Zhang, will be voting tonight. Can we get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for September 9th? Commissioner Mayo.
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner McConnell. Do we need a roll call vote on this?
Please.
Okay.
Chair Boschert.
In favor?
Chair Boschert is in favor. Vice Chair McConnell.
Yes.
Vice Chair McConnell is in favor. Commissioner Calling.
Yes.
Commissioner Calling is in favor. Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn is in favor. Commissioner Tomachek.
Yes.
Commissioner Tomachek is in favor. Commissioner Mayo.
Yes.
Commissioner Mayo is in favor. Commissioner Zhang.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here for the vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Zhang is abstaining from this vote. And I'd like to clarify, you stated September the 9th, and these minutes we're voting on was for August 9th. I just want that to be clear in the
Thank you.
record. Thank you.
See, you get away from this for a little while and you forget everything. Okay, so that passes nearly unanimously. And before we go any further, I'd like to say if anyone here would like to speak during the public hearing, please sign up on the sheets in the back of the room. Thank you. In addition, comments were accepted electronically and via voicemail and were delivered to the Planning Commission and posted to the public agenda packet prior to this meeting. Anyone who wishes to speak will be called upon in order of which they signed up. Thank you. Tonight's first agenda item is 3A, public hearing and consideration of preliminary development plan for the Foster property. Jacob, I believe you're making the presentation tonight.
Yes, Chairperson. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jacob Kaza. I am a senior planner with the city's planning division. Next slide, please. As a part of bringing this project before you, a staff agenda memo has been created and tonight's public hearing has been properly noticed. The agenda memo, its associated attachments, tonight's PowerPoint presentation, the public notices published in the Westminster window, the mailed notices, and the posted notices are hereby entered into the public record at this time. The notices of the public hearing were mailed to 48 property owners in 2 HOAs within 500 feet of each of the 3 parcels under consideration tonight. The city has also posted the hearing date and time on its website. Next slide, please. Here is a map of the Foster property. The vacant parcels that are the subject of the PDP amendment are outlined in red. The parcels are located at the northeast corner of West 136th Avenue and Huron Street. Next slide, please. The preliminary development plan amendment clarifies the land uses and divides the land into 4 planning areas with uses that are compliant with the city's comprehensive plan. The PDP amendment allows for a retail commercial development at the corner of West 136th Avenue and Huron Street. The remaining land north of the proposed West 138th Avenue would include only land uses compliant with the Office R&D High Comprehensive Land Use category. Next slide, please. Section 11.5.14 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 10 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing preliminary development plan amendments. Staff finds that the preliminary development plan amendment generally meets these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. Several examples of these criteria are that the PDP is consistent with the comprehensive plan and all city codes and policies, that the PDP is compatible and harmonious with existing public and private development in the surrounding area, and that the PDP will not preclude future public land dedications. For those selected example criteria, staff finds that the PDP amendment as proposed meets the comprehensive plan, that the PDP is compatible with existing developments in the surrounding area, and that the PDP will not preclude future land dedications. Next slide, please. Staff's recommendation is to hold a public hearing and recommend that City Council approve the PDP amendment. Next slide, please. Staff finds that a recommendation of approval of the application would meet the city's strategic plan priorities of ensure that Westminster offers a diverse range of amenities and activities for residents, businesses, and visitors that honor the city's history and support the arts, parks, recreation, open spaces, and libraries, is met by facilitating the development of comprehensive plan compliant uses on the vacant Foster property. The applicant is with us tonight and has a presentation to share with you as well. Thank you for your attention. There are several staff members with us as well this evening, and we would all be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jacob. Can commissioners ask you questions now, or do they need to wait until the presentation of the applicant is through?
That's up to you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. So if anyone has questions? No? Let's go ahead and do the applicant, please.
Good evening. Thank you very much for hearing our PDP amendment today. My name is Eric Checkle. I work with Shuck Chapman, and it's certainly is a pleasure to be here. I was going to hand out our presentation in paper, if that's okay. So if you wanted to
Sounds good.
take a look at it. Thank you. Appreciate that. So as I mentioned, Eric Checkle with Shuck Chapman. We are the developer of this 85-acre Foster property that Jacob described a little bit ago. It really is a pleasure for us to be here tonight. This is a culmination of about 2.5 years of working on this project with staff. And it's both staff and city council. Really, it's been a pleasure working with staff. I've worked with staff before on previous projects, and I think this one has gone really quite well. And especially our thanks goes to Jacob and John, as well as to the members of your engineering staff, Michael Wright, Dave Losman, Heath. And then, of course, we have to thank Stephanie Troller in economic development. She's really been a pleasure to work with and has helped this project usher through the process. Jacob really, in his staff report that we've had an opportunity to read, he's really done a great job describing the project, as well as describing how we're in accordance with the comprehensive plan. So I'm going to try to make my presentation fairly short here. We actually do submit our presentation before we get the staff report, so it might look a little longer than it hopefully will need to be this evening. So I will try to make it quick. With me tonight is also other members of the Shuck Chapman team and a couple of our consultants. So if there's any questions you have, hopefully we'll be able to answer those. First slide, please. The next slide, please. So just to provide some bearings, as Jacob showed the vicinity map, This zooms in a little bit more and provides some color to what the planning areas are within the Foster property. At the southwest corner is planning area 1, which that's the zoning of the retail commercial. That's about 23 acres. What we envision going there on that property is a neighborhood and regional commercial needs, retail stores and services, restaurants, possibly a grocery store, different businesses, professional services, things of that nature, stuff that you've approved and have seen built up along 144th. I think a good example of what this site could also be developed into is at that southeast corner of 144th and Huron. There's the Marriott, the Courtyard by Marriott there. That's really the anchor for that retail center where the Snooze is located and the Einsteins, those 3 shop buildings around there. I can envision something similar in this location, but we might have a couple pads, individual 1 or 1.5 or 2 acre pads that might have drive-throughs in them, maybe some drive-through restaurants. We're hoping to see a small format grocer be located on this parcel. We think it's a great opportunity and some good synergies with the retail to the south, with the Walmart across the street, as well as the Lowe's to the east. And then it really bookends that Huron Street with this retail development down here at 136th and everything that's going on up at 144th. In purple on the same slide here, those are planning areas 2, 3, and 4. And that's about 63 acres or so. And that's really the key to those purple areas is that is the employment hub for this development. And also to the north of us, there's similar employment hubs that are really going to draw Westminster residents as well as people from outside the region into this area. So this area is also the major northern gateway into Westminster. And so it's really our focus to make sure that it's developed properly, in accordance with all your rules and regulations, which we've had great opportunity to go through and feel very confident that we'll be able to meet with those expectations. This purple area, again, is intended for a professional office, medical facilities, research and development labs, different business services, and the potential for a hotel. Again, playing off the other synergies in the area with the St. Anthony's Hospital, not too far to the north, as well as the other developments that have occurred around that. Through the middle of the site, Orchard Parkway, I'm sure you're mostly familiar with that. That road was constructed by the city back in 2010. It really hasn't, seen tons of traffic yet on that road because of the land around it hasn't been developed. So this is a great opportunity to utilize that improvement that the city constructed several years ago. On the east side of the property in blue on the same plan, there's an existing regional detention facility. And for us, the benefit to that for us, as it was constructed by the city, but also paid for by the Foster family who we're buying this property from, that pond was built years ago with the goal of not having to do individual detention ponds in each of these planning areas. So that really makes this property much more developable and easier to maintain by being able to utilize a regional facility. Cutting through the property, you can't really see it too well on this plan, but is the Bull Canal, which cuts through planning area 1 and planning area 2. So we plan to relocate that, to realign that canal on the west side of Orchard, just up right along Orchard. We've been working with FRICO already, who owns and is responsible for maintenance of that canal. And along with that, we intend on putting in a trail system that will parallel that trail and tie into the other trails in the area. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Next slide, please. So this is the comprehensive plan slide, and this picture here came right out of your comprehensive plan. You can see our property, or the Foster property, is surrounded by that black dashed line. And so out of convenience, and just to show the similarities between what is shown in your comp plan and the previous slide, we color the planning areas in the same color as your comp plan. So we are meeting your comp plan, which obviously, as Jacob has stated, is one of the hurdles that we wanted to make sure that we cleared here. And that's exactly what we've done. Next slide, please. This slide lists the goals, your comprehensive plan goals. I don't think I need to go into much detail here with your goals, but it's definitely, once we get into the ODP process, which is the next step after this preliminary development plan, there'll be separate ODPs for all those different planning areas that I talked about earlier. And we'll be sure to meet your goals when those specific ODPs are brought forth in front of your staff, as well in front of this body and in front of City Council. The next slide, very similar. These are your comprehensive plan policies. Same thing. We'll make sure that we meet, we've obviously read through these. We know that we can meet these expectations of your comprehensive plan. And you'll see more of that in the future. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this slide shows some photos of visions that we have. We call it community visions. These are some of the visions that we have planned for the planning areas throughout the development. We've taken some photos from around the city of Westminster, as well as other developments that we've done, and then just photos of things that we think look nice and we think that would be a good fit within this development. So we have several photos similar to these that we'll be sharing with the vertical builders within this development that will make sure that they're meeting these expectations. Hopefully you like what you see here. If there's other visions that staff or planning commission or city council has that you'd like for us to incorporate into this development, we're happy to take a look at that stuff, provide it to our planners and our architects so that we can make sure that the vision of the city also is reflected in what is developed out here at Foster. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that we're really quite proud of. And I know the city is very passionate about connectivity, not only vehicular, but also pedestrian and bicycle connectivity. And so we're passionate about that as well. There's no point in designing and developing a community, a master plan, without having ease of access to it, either vehicular or pedestrian or bicycle access. As you might be familiar with, throughout this development, there is quite a few trails that a lot of people utilize. I've been out there walking the property several times, and I see people up and down this blue dotted trail along the regional detention pond, as well as up along the trail along Orchard Parkway. So we plan to add to those both soft and hard trails along the Bull Canal after the realignment. Again, realignment on the west side. We plan on keeping the Bull Canal pretty much the same alignment as sits there today, because that separates planning areas 3 and 4. But we'll run a trail along that for ease of access to the regional trail up along the regional pond from Orchard Parkway. Also, it's our vision that once we get all these offices out here and this research and development buildings, that this retail at that southwest corner will really act as the hub for people to go there for lunch and go there for dinner. So people don't need to jump in their car in the middle of the day. They can just, if they ride their bike to work or if they drive their car to work, then they can just walk down to this retail center and that's where they're going to go to lunch or go to dinner on the way home. So we've added, conceptually, we're showing where that we expect the trails to be throughout these different planning areas. And again, once we get to that ODP stage, you'll see a lot more detail. In red on the plan, we also show existing roadways, as well as proposed 138th Avenue, which will connect from that northwest corner of the Lowe's shopping center. We're going to connect that road over to Huron, put in a traffic signal at Huron. Also expect there's going to need to be a traffic signal at Orchard and 138th, as well as we might need to see another traffic signal along Orchard Parkway if we see the amount of density that's expected in this in these planning areas 2, 3, and 4. So we're very focused on the safety of the pedestrians as well as the vehicles driving through this area, and we'll continue to work with our traffic engineers and the city's traffic engineers when we get to that ODP stage. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick little analysis that we had our engineer just take a look at the city's master plan for water and sewer out here to make sure that what we were proposing came in under what your master plan expected for water usage as well as wastewater usage. And we're expecting about 14% less usage of water and about 18% for wastewater. So it's our goal to fly underneath that your master plan's level. This next slide, if I may. This lists the standards for approval of a amended preliminary development plan. I don't want to walk through this if I don't need to. Jacob has already gone through great detail in his staff report and talked about this, and we feel that we've checked all these boxes to be able to receive approval for the PDP amendment this evening. And then the last slide, if you would. And I would like to just go through these items. So just in summary, we feel that this PDP amendment accomplishes the following. We believe that we're in conformance with the comprehensive plan. City staff has recommended approval, which we greatly appreciate. We have yet to receive any public or neighborhood opposition or any comments. We did have our neighborhood meeting and have yet to hear anything from the neighbors, which is really wonderful. We enhanced the multimodal connectivity throughout the area. There are reimbursements stated within the PDP document. On page 3 of the PDP, we list all the recoveries that we're responsible for, and obviously we'll be reimbursing the city for all those improvements that the city has already put in out here, which again are very much appreciated. We are very sensitive to the area's water and sewer constraints and requirements, and we'll make sure that we adhere to those requirements. Recently, City Council approved our business improvement district, which was really a great hurdle and a great more appreciation for the city for that approval. That helps us finance the public improvements for the project. And then finally, this Foster property, I've had a chance to read through a lot of old documents associated with this property. This has been a piece of property the city's had their eye on for the last 20 to 25 years. And we feel like we're finally able to bring the vision that the city has identified in the comp plan to this property and to this development. So with that, I'm going to just close it out and thank you again. Again, our team is here. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer anything you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I would like to open the public hearing at this time. If you have signed up on the sheet in the back of the room, your name will be called in the order in which you signed. Do we have any email or voicemail testimony?
We did not receive any emails
Okay.
or voicemails to be played into the meeting this evening, and there was nobody signed up on the sheet. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak?
Okay, I see that we don't have a lot of testimony tonight, so I will close the public hearing and entertain discussion on this item and a motion if so needed. Since I see no discussion, I will call for a motion. Commissioner McConnell.
Thank you, Commissioner Boschert. I move that the Planning Commission recommends City Council approve the third preliminary development plan amendment for the Foster property. This recommendation is based on the finding that the amendment is supported by the criteria set forth in Section 11-5-14 of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Mayo.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? I see none, so let's call a question. Do we need a roll call on this? Very good.
Chair Boschert.
In favor?
Chair Boschert is in favor. Vice Chair McConnell.
Yes.
Vice Chair McConnell is in favor. Commissioner Calling.
Yes.
Commissioner Calling is in favor. Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn is in favor. Commissioner Tomacek.
Yes.
Commissioner Tomacek is in favor. Commissioner Mayo.
Yes.
Commissioner Mayo is in favor. Commissioner Zhang.
Yes.
Commissioner Zhang is in favor. Vote is complete.
And it passes unanimously. Thank you all. I have a note here that this would be a good time to call a 10-minute recess. Is there a necessity for that?
I expected there to be a little bit of discussion, so I was thinking that would be a good time after that. So it's totally up to you, Chair Boschert.
I don't think anyone needs a break, do you? Okay, let's continue. Thank you for the presentation. Tonight's next item is item 3B. And I believe that planner Amy Johnson will make a presentation on this. I should state that the item is a consideration of the ODP amendment for an animal hospital at the Benton Park planned unit development.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Amy Johnson. I'm a senior planner with the city's planning division. Tonight before you is an amendment to the Benton Park official development plan for an animal hospital. Next slide, please. To bring this project to this public hearing, it has been properly noticed and an agenda memo created. The agenda memo, its attachments, this PowerPoint presentation, the notice in the Westminster window, the mailed notices, the posted sign, and the sign certification are hereby entered into the public record. The mailed notices were sent to property owners within 500 feet of the whole Benton Park subdivision. The city has also posted the hearing date and time on its website. Next slide, please. This is a map of the Benton Park subdivision and the vicinity, with two parcels being combined into one lot of 1.66 acres in the Animal Hospital's amended official development plan, or ODP, outlined in red. Next slide. Benton Park has been designated office, or O, by the comprehensive plan and zoned plan unit development, or PUD, since the year 2000, when the preliminary development plan, or PDP, was approved for office uses, including professional, commercial, medical, veterinary, and consulting office uses. The amended official development plan, or ODP, for the animal hospital complies with the zoning in the PDP and with the comprehensive plan. They propose a one-story building of 7,947 square feet, 36 parking spaces, and 59% landscape coverage on this lot. There is no outdoor play area for animals proposed. Next slide. The architecture is prairie style with brick and manufactured stone in earth tones to fit with the architectural theme of other buildings in this center. Next slide. As you can see on this slide, staff has not asked that the buildings match each other exactly, but we have tried to achieve compatibility and a balanced continuity of colors, style, and materials within this center. as required by the original master ODP and approval criteria 5 and 10. Next slide. Section 11.5.15 of the Westminster Municipal Code contains 17 criteria that are to be considered when reviewing amendments to official development plans. To summarize, they require that the ODP conform with the PDP, applicable code and standards, be compatible with the surrounding development, architecture and colors, protect from adverse influences, provide adequate drainage and traffic accommodations, safe parking, and pedestrian connections. Staff finds that the ODP amendment as reviewed by staff is in conformance with these criteria. Next slide. Staff also finds that approval of the application would meet 2 of the city's strategic plan priorities. Priority 1, preparedness and resilience, and priority 4, quality of life. Next slide. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing and then approve the ODP amendment as reviewed by staff. And now we have the applicant presentation.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much, Amy, for your presentation. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you. I'm Jim Fitzmaurice with JR Engineering. We've prepared the official development plan amendment and worked with staff, and appreciate all your help with this. With me is also the architect, Mike Mathis, that may want to say a few things. Dr. Aris, that has a existing practice in not too far from here that he's purchased these lots and is going to move his practice here. And then Jason, who is with the contractor. I think that Amy summarized it pretty well. I think that Dr. Aris would like to expand his practice. He has a good clientele and he wants to expand his practice here. And I think that the site works well for him. And I think that I think we've met all the criteria. I've had a PowerPoint, but I don't know that there's too much that we need to go through on that. We can go through the slides. The vicinity map, they were at about 113th and Sheridan. Next slide just has some bullet points about the site. Most of it I think that you've seen. And the project description. Think that overall, I think he's expecting to employ 15 to 30 people. We're providing a nice landscape site and some setback from Sheridan. And I think that's pretty much everything there. I think maybe Mike, the architect, would like to say a few words. Thank you very much. We're available to answer questions.
Thank you. My name is Mike Mathis with Linden Group Architects. You can advance to the next slide, please. I just wanted to highlight some features in the architecture of the building we developed, and I do thank staff. We kind of had a long process of modifications to this design to kind of get it to where it was today. And I think it's really turned out to be something that we're really excited to propose to you tonight. Along the way, we've from the beginning had a building that had a fair amount of undulation and height. You can see on the elevations that it shows how the mechanical units are all being screened. But in working with staff, they identified certain parts of the building they thought would be better to increase the height of, maybe add stone to certain components. And the other element that we have worked with staff and added additional architectural features was the awnings. So this building is kind of unique because it is a 4-sided building with our exposure to, is it Meridian? Meridian? Sheridan, sorry. Sheridan and 113th, and then our entrance being, and the parking being on the opposite 2 sides. We really had the challenge of making this building present to all faces. The east elevation is the primarily road elevation, and the entrance sort of parking lot gives exposure to that entrance to the main road as well. One of the things, so Amy mentioned the materials. We have a veneer brick. We have a veneer manufactured stone. We have ACM, composite metal panel. That's the dark gray material, along with the glazing, and then the awnings. The last material is a metal ACM that looks like wood. So right now in the proposal, we have a color presented for, or that we had approved with staff, which is a walnut color. And as we worked through all these changes with Dr. Harris and staff, there was this one last thing that was kind of a passion thing for Dr. Harris as far as the color of the wood. So we would like to ask consideration today, although we have presented the walnut color, that we maybe give consideration to the alternate color that was originally presented to staff, which is a cherry color. And I do believe Amy is going to elaborate on this. She has a slide to speak to it. If I could advance the slide one. I think from these renderings, I think the color that you see depicted is somewhere between the walnut and the cherry. So I feel like in certain light, like on the first perspective, the northwest perspective, you see that wood. And even in the northeast perspective, you see the wood with a more orange color. And then on the sides of the building that are in shade, they look more like the walnut. We had the benefit from Amy to try to match the buildings on the site. And we saw the proposed elevations of the dental building and the material that was put in. And the proposed wood was a lot warmer color. And what actually got installed was a more brown. And we felt like in the proposed elevation, that contrast in material, we're still sticking with the earth tones, but we thought it was a real benefit to the architecture. We also think that in adding that warmer wood color to this elevation is still very compatible with the other buildings on site. So we would ask for you to make that consideration today. And like I mentioned, we do have a sample here, and Amy's going to speak further to that. And then the last slide, I think this slide, and this will be in Amy's presentation as well, I think on the follow-up, is it does show the two metal panels. So you see the submitted material board with the walnut. And the walnut is it's sort of in the middle next to the gray. It's hard to see on screen. Hopefully you have something in front of you that's more clear. And then the picture that's off to the right of the material on an install is actually the cherry color. And you see that cherry color in that picture is presented with next to a dark ACM panel, which would be similar to what we would have on our building. That's really all I have. I think Dr. Harris would maybe like to come up and close possibly. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come here today and work with these guys to bring to life a project that has been very dear to me. 10 years ago, I did not have a license to practice in this country, and I finally got it. I couldn't get a job as a veterinarian and ended up working for driving 2 hours one way, 3 days a week to work. I got off the road a few times, and I decided it's time for me to settle down and open my practice since I couldn't get a job. So started next door in the shopping center here, and we have grown significantly. It is time to move on to a bigger area, better exposure to be able to serve more people in the community. So we have, spent a lot of time putting this thing together. You might know veterinarians are very picky and very picky with my choices of colors and, material come along with this. So we have complied with most things that, the city wanted us to do and follow the guidance and so forth. So that cherry wood panel is something that is very dear to me. It kind of flows with what we have, the colors on the inside, and everything else kind of ties in to it very well. So I would really love to have that on there. I appreciate your time and opportunity to present this project to you guys. Happy to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for the architect. can you pick up your sample board and show us the cherry, please?
If I may, could we advance to slide 22? It
Okay.
shows this. That's a little clearer.
Thank you.
For you. Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead and show us the sample of the cherry. And is that the walnut below it? Okay. Let me see. Thank you. Amy, can you fill us in on why staff is against the cherry?
Yes, I'm happy to. I wasn't certain if this was going to be a request before we got here tonight, so that's why this is at the end. So staff, like I mentioned before, did not ask that the buildings match each other exactly, but we did try to achieve some compatibility and a balanced continuity of the colors, the materials, and the architecture. The original master ODP did ask for that, and it had more of a master plan for the whole center, and it had more of a strict standard for the architecture at the time. But we are gradually allowing ODPs to come forward and depart from that, but that means that you have to review it to see if they're departing too much or too little. So we believe that the walnut is a better compatibility as is required by not only the master ODP, but also criteria 5 and 10 as you review ODPs. And those require that the development be compatible with the surrounding area, the architecture, and the materials nearby. So staff just believes that the walnut color that's shown on the upper left of your slide here was more compatible. It is a metal, so we're not 100% sure how it might weather, you know, whether that color might change or fade or whatever. So we believe that the color change would not meet criteria 5 and 10.
Thank you. Is there any difference, I'm directing this to the applicant, is there any difference in maintenance or longevity between these two materials?
Both the two colors that are being proposed are the same material. It's a metal with a laminated wood look. It's often what's being used to get the metal look in architecture these days because of the durability of it. Like normal wood that just requires a ton of maintenance. The alternate is a product that was put on the dental building, which is a product, which, you know, in that case just like a brown panel. It doesn't have that richness to the wood. So really this offers the most durable opportunity to provide a wood look on a building, and both colors are the same material.
And so no difference in durability.
No,
Thank you. Commissioner Colling.
Thank you. I have a question for staff. So you're comparing these two different shades of cherry and walnut, basic two shades of brown, against the pictures that are on the screen now, those two lower pictures. Is that correct?
That's correct. On the lower left is the emergency medical center existing there, and on the lower right is the existing dentist office.
So just for clarity, for us, it's about this big on our screens.
I know,
It's really
yeah.
hard to tell. If you have anything larger, you can show us, to just give us your perspective, because I can't tell by looking at this. I mean, go ahead.
I do have a comparative which shows the material that's actually on the dental building.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a little bit closer. This was the rendering that we were given as for our matching, and then as the building was constructed for a process. This is the building, so that wood material, which is here, it's still pretty small, but it's over the entrance.
So the picture on the right is the one, the new facility.
Right. This is all. This is all the dental facility.
Okay.
These three pictures. This is the rendering that was.
Okay.
This is the install, and this is the material that is put on the wood. So that was, which ends up really, when you look at the install, it ends up looking like a brown panel, which is having that warm wood quality that Dr. Harris was looking for. Now, we did find an alternate, which we presented, the walnut to try to get close to this, but we started with the cherry as our initial,
Sure.
which you were.
Is the stone similar?
The stone is similar in color, but it's different. In close, if you look at them, they're not. If you look at it side by side, they're not the same, but from a distance, I think they're pretty close.
So even though these buildings both have the stone and a wood pattern, they're comparable in the same complex, but
I think so.
Slightly different.
Especially in the architectural elements, and staff worked with us with this, where we have, you notice that this can't be over the furthest cornice sort of element that steps out and steps in and comes back out the stone. We repeated that. We just kind of switched the materials around, but we continued. We kept similar elements, and also the tie rod canopy as well is another element that we brought in. And staff had us add additional canopies to kind of reinforce that.
so from an architectural perspective, you feel like the existing dental facility and the proposed veterinary facility have similar architectural styles.
Yeah.
It's just a slight difference in the wood color. Thank you.
This is Attorney Young.
Yes. Is it,
First, let me ask, are you done, Commissioner Collin?
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
I have really bad eyesight. I'm the old buck here. Is it possible for us to physically hold it and see it? Thank you.
Another quick question for the applicant. Is there any difference in cost between the two colors? No. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Young?
This is a question for staff. Just for my clarification, staff's opposition is strictly just based on the color of the material, not the material itself, correct?
I wouldn't exactly say that. Metal is considered to be allowed by our retail commercial design standards as an accent only. And so the fact that it's fairly prominent, it's considered an accent in this case, I would say, but it is fairly prominent. That does play into our decision whether to support this color or not.
Okay.
Commissioner McConnell?
Thank you, Commissioner Boschert. So, Amy, this question's for you. What you just said is that would there be a greater, more extensive use of the cherry than there would be of the walnut?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I only meant that because the metal material is used in a fairly large area.
Okay.
It's still considered an accent, but it's a fairly large accent. That caused us to look more closely at the color.
Right. Either walnut or cherry, it's the same
Yes,
square footage.
correct.
So a question for the applicant, the architect. In one of the pictures that you showed had at the Benton Park sign in front of the dental office, I believe. What color is the stone on the bottom of that sign?
I would say earth. It's earth tones. I would say. I mean, that's kind of where this.
Okay.
It's
I mean, to me,
it's
when I was
got buff
looking at-
and a little bit of brown in it, if I remember.
Right.
And
And the
yeah.
reason I ask is when I was looking at the picture, the color in that stone on the sign, to me, looked more like the cherry color than the walnut. But either color that we pick, the cherry, everything in Colorado fades in the sun over a given period of time. That's why I have the privilege of staining my deck every 5 years, right? And I do have a question for the doctor. So you had mentioned in your earlier comments that the cherry wood color had a special significance or a meaning to you.
Yeah, it's just brightness. Just brightness. The walnut color is not vibrant. I feel, I am an inspiration to a lot of people. I'm an inspiration to myself. And I feel like I need to be excited about what I'm building. I want to be happy when I get there. And I want to, be vibrant before I get into the building. And I want everything to kind of ties in together. We're not gonna go back to our drawings and change all the colors you have on the inside just because you're putting walnut on the outside. And we had that cherry color for over a year, since late March 2021 when we started. And we were advised to change that just 3 months ago. So I feel that the walnut doesn't match with my building and what I try to accomplish. And I understand that the dental office is a nice office for the dental office, but not for me. So I don't see why I need to match the dental office. As long as I meet the other criteria. Initially, I wanted to have a black stone for the building, but I was told you need to use earth colors. So we have followed that. To me, as long as the cherry fits into the earth tone colors, it should be acceptable, in my opinion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mayo.
Yeah, looking at these pictures, and it's probably my eyes or maybe the way the light was when the pictures were taken. But if I look at the emergency room and I look at the dental office, I mean, those don't even look consistent with each other to me. I mean, it seems like there's a lot more brown on the picture on the left and the picture on the right is mostly gray. Is that what it is in real life, or are these pictures kind of playing tricks on my eyes?
Well, as I mentioned, they do not match exactly. We did our best to carry through the earth tones, the lines, the architecture, generally speaking, while still allowing people to vary a little bit. So we were just trying to find that balance.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McConnell.
Amy, one last question, I think. So the original ODP was approved in what year?
2007.
I remember that year.
Any other questions? In that case, I would like to entertain a motion on this. And before we do that, I would like to just make a quick comment. I believe that this design is high quality, fits very well with the rest of the development. And I think the cherry is such a slight change that I would probably support it.
Chair Boschert,
Yes.
I believe we need to open the public
Oh,
testimony.
you're correct.
portion.
We do.
Thank you.
Thank you. See? Okay, since we have finished the applicant's testimony, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak can come forward or sign the sheet. Do we have any voicemail or emails?
No voicemails, no emails, no sign up in the back unless there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak.
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion at this time. Unless we want discussion beforehand. Would anyone like to comment? Commissioner John.
I have a hypothetical question. Just clarify again with staff. One of the concerns is the cherry color may fade in the sun, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have not seen a a large application of the metal material like this
Okay.
before to be able to really know.
Okay. And then this is for the applicant's team. How much would it, or staff, what's the financial burden if it changes and the city requires you to make fixes to the paint or whether the color to make it cherry again? What burden would that bring upon the staff?
Yeah, I guess the answer is the material's the same burden either way. I can tell you that the metal that is the use of a wood look to metal has gone that way because of the difficulty of maintaining wood looks. And this, I think the metal finishes, I mean, the technology of metal finishes, I know stuff, this is fades because there's a lot of sunny days in Denver. But I think it's a 50-year finish. And I think if it fades, I expect it to still look great and not need to be replaced. And the walnut would have the same impact from the sun as the cherry would.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Colling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the walnut would fade just like the cherry could fade. Does the city have in place a mechanism whereby if the siding on your building fades, they require you to come back and change the color to get it dark again?
So I don't know that we have a precedent on file. Generally speaking, though, an ODP approval is your zoning approval. It does run with the land. So if you run afoul with an ODP approval, then the city would require you to come into compliance. What we usually see is landscaping or trees that die or get sick, and we would have the property owner replace those. I haven't seen a lot of disrepair in buildings, but it can happen if it is an ODP requirement, and it is the owner's obligation to maintain it. So I don't have a precedent.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? I am actually going to support, if it comes up as a motion, the use of the cherry color. So just so everybody knows. But I cannot make a motion. That's up to you. Yes, I closed the public hearing. So we are. Commissioner Collin,
I'd like to make a motion.
please do.
I move that the Planning Commission approve the 6th amended official development plan for the Benton Park subdivision with the condition that the metal siding may be changed to cherry color. This recommendation is based on the findings that the amendment meets 15 of the 17 criteria set forth in section 11-5-15 of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Do we have a second? Commissioner McConnell.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Would you like to comment? Commissioner Dunn. Too many.
It's been a long time. Well, I just want to say I'm supporting this motion for a simple reason that sections 5 and 10 in 11-5-15 speak of harmonious and compatible. I think we have that here. Harmonious and compatible don't mean exactly matching. So that's my reason for this motion.
Thank you. Commissioner McConnell.
Yeah, I have to second what Commissioner Dunn has to say, and thanks for pointing out number 10 to me, because the architectural design of all structures is internally and externally compatible in terms of shape, color, texture, forms, and materials, and it was in the doctor's best interest to have that color compatibility between the exterior and his interior.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will call the question. Roll call, please.
Chair Boschert.
In favor.
Chair Boschert is in favor. Vice Chair McConnell.
Yes.
Vice Chair McConnell is in favor. Commissioner Carpenter, excuse me, Commissioner Calling. Yes. Commissioner Calling is in favor. Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn is in favor. Commissioner Tomacek.
Yes.
Commissioner Tomacek is in favor. Commissioner Mayo.
Yes.
Commissioner Mayo is in favor. Commissioner Zhang.
Yes.
Commissioner Zhang is in favor. Vote is complete.
And it's unanimous. The motion passes. Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any old business? All right, our next meeting will be on the 13th of September. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments, old business, ending business, anything? Okay, seeing nothing, I will